Florida is having a debate, a discussion about using marijuana for medical purposes. What are your views about that?
My views is that the federal government has perpetuated one of the great frauds on the United States with it as it relates to cannabis. And if most of America understood what the facts were and not what the myths were, that they would be outraged and would demand a change in the policy. And the policy changes we're talking about today are those policy changes.
Tell me some of the facts.
All right, the facts were that cannabis, most of us remember we all have a bone system, we have a nerve system, we have a muscle system, but I bet none of us remember ever being taught that there was an endocannabinoid system in our body. And it turns out, if you look at a medical textbook, till 12 years ago, they weren't even teaching endocannabinoid system. And then now they found out that there is a system, and that's the system that deals with your organs and deals with your immune system. It deals with all these other parts of our body. And we're beginning to find science throughout the world that says it starts to stop tumors. It cures Lou Gehrig's disease, glaucoma, gets rid of pain. And when you start doing the research on this, all of a sudden there's a lot of medical research already done that shows that when you look at the endocannabinoid system, it's a way to cure a lot of suffering in this country. And the reason most of us got elected, I can tell you the reason I ran for office, is we want to be able to help people. When I was mayor, the best I could do was make sure your garbage got picked up on time. But I think what we've got is an opportunity in the country for a lot of legislators to help people's most important thing we can do is help their health. And we can actually help people stop suffering and get well. And the science is beginning to tell us that. And if you look at the history, Steve, it's baffling that we've gotten to the point that we're still having this debate.
Why do you think there is so much opposition to legalizing marijuana for medicinal uses or even for other uses?
It's because what happens is, I believe, the press and we get our information from all these different places, and you create impressions, and nobody does the research to figure out whether those impressions are true. What most people don't remember is in 1930, when they actually had the Marijuana Tax Act, it was a drug that was in almost all the drugs that were being manufactured by Eli Lilly, by Squibb. When the 1930 Act to get rid of marijuana was enacted, the AMA was opposed to it. They had 3 or 4 drug companies that were opposed to it because they were using it and it was effective. And it wasn't until 1970, when most of our generation was still in college doing all the stuff we were doing, that the National Institute of Health made it a stage 1 drug. And that's what most of us say, oh, if it's a stage 1 drug, this must be bad. And that was the same as LSD and cocaine. Well, if you read when the National Institute of Health actually wrote the letter that says we're making it a Schedule 1 drug, the letter says, quote, unquote, there is no evidence showing it does any harm. And quote, unquote, it doesn't show that it helps anybody. Well, the Drug Enforcement Agency Administrative Judge Francis Young, about 10 years ago in a ruling said, this is absolutely incredible. There's clearly evidence that shows it is therapeutically good and gets rid of suffering for a lot of people. And it does good things. So we've got the DEA's own administrative judge saying these things. It's very interesting that when the government did what they did when they said it's a class 1 and they wrote that letter, guess who got the patent on cannabis?
Who?
The federal government. If it had no therapeutic value, if it had absolutely no good value as a medicinal product, then why is the federal government getting a patent on it? And why was the AMA saying we need to do more medical research on what this is? Why was the National Institute of Health saying we need to do more medical research and figure out what this product really can do? Why was it the FDA said we need to do more medical research to figure out whether this can actually help suffering, help cure disease? Why did the University of Virginia Medical School say, hey, we figured out this stops brain cancer, something close and dear to my heart? Why is it that they also have these other places throughout the world that have shown through medical studies that it stops the growth of cancer. Do you not, in my mind, feel how outraged this country ought to be if we've had all along some ability to deal with cancer, but we have not we have spent billions of dollars throwing people in jail over cannabis instead of billions of dollars in medical research? That's outrageous.